Hi guys, today we're going to start a little bit with adding polynomials. And adding polynomials is kind of like a algebra version of what you added when you were in like elementary school. So if I just want to give you an example here. If I had something like this, most of us would solve it by lining things up and down like this. One of the reasons that we do that is because it does line up like terms. These would be the ones and it lines up the ones. These would be the tens and it lines up the tens. And these would be the hundreds and it would line up the one would be the hundreds and they would line up. So we're going to use this same idea when we go through and have to do polynomials. The big thing for us is there's kind of 3 steps to it. And after you see the first couple, we're only doing basics today, but after you get the first couple, I think you'll kind of have the hang of this. So when we're adding polynomials, we make columns in standard form of all the kinds of variables. So if I look through something and x squared was the highest that I saw my variables, I would basically go through and make columns in standard form. So x to the second x, and then number is always going to be the very last column. So we start by making columns so we know how we want to sort it. So that basically means I'm going to sort these. All my x squareds would go in this column, x's would go here, and numbers would go here. Now once I get all of my pieces sorted from whatever I'm adding, I'm just going to total them up. So let's see how this works on some real numbers. So on this first one, I have add 3x squared minus 3x minus 5, parentheses, plus, parentheses, 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. So if I look at all of those, the highest exponent I see with the variable is x squared. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to make 3 columns. Make this a little smaller here so it's easier to read. There we go. X squared, x, and then my number. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and kind of get each piece of my term kind of separated. So in the first one, I basically have 3 terms. So I'm going to sort those into the columns they go into. So the first one's an x squared, so it's going to go here. The next one is an x. Now I want you to notice that I took this minus in front of the 3 and I put it in front of the 3, so it's almost like a negative. So if there's a negative sign in front of it, you got to take it with it. So the next one's minus 5, so I'm going to make that like a negative 5. Okay, now we're going to go through and we're going to do the same thing with this one. So this is, I'm going on to my second parenthesis. I'm going to kind of make a second row here of numbers. So 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. So all I've done so far is just sorted x squareds into a column, x's into a column, and then numbers. So that's our big sorting. Once we get done sorting, we can make a plus sign and draw a line. Now we just need to total up the columns. So in this column, if I were to add those all up, that would be 5x squared. Basically what I'm doing is putting these pieces together in front. Now I've got to put those 2 together. So negative 3 plus 5 is positive 2. So I'm going to write plus 2x. And then I have in the next column negative 5 and positive 3, which is going to be negative 2. And that's going to be my answer. But notice it's in standard form. Highest exponent of the variable first, and then it works down to having having the number on the end. Okay, now there was a little remember that I put over here, and I think you might notice that I've already done this. If you end up with a positive number, then you write a plus sign. If you end up with a negative number, then you put a minus sign. So back here, when I did this middle column right here, I got that to be a positive 2. So I made that plus 2. In this one, when I put it together, I got negative 2. So down here, I wrote minus 2. So just an awareness of what's going on with the signs. Okay, now if we go to the next one, if I look as far as values, I have x's and numbers. So in standard form, I do x and then my number. And then I'm going to go through and start to sort. Before I do that, though, there is an x value that doesn't have a number in front. So I'm going to put a 1 there. So now I'm going to go through and kind of get my pieces together. So 1x, and then minus 2 is going to be negative 2. Then I'm going to sort this. So it's going to be 2x, and then plus 5. Once I have everything sorted, I can make my plus sign and draw my line. So if I look here, we put those pieces together. So 1x plus 2x is 3x. And then this part, negative 2 plus 5 is going to be positive 3. So I'm going to write plus 3. Now, once you get the hang, I think, of how to sort them and how to make the columns, these tend to get a lot easier. Okay, in the next one, the highest exponent I see is y squared. So I know it's going to be y squared, y, and then my number column, because I'm setting up standard form. Okay, then I'm going to get my pieces and start to sort. So 2y squared plus 3y plus 6. If I go to this one, it's 3y squared. And then minus 4, I'm going to write it like negative 4. Now when everything's sorted, I'm going to draw my line. Now you'll notice there's a spot right here that doesn't have anything. And that just happens to be that there's no value of y only in that second equation. Now, if you want to write plus 0y, you can. If you want to just leave it blank, you can do that too. Because that means that column's pretty easy to put together when we get done. It's easy to see that's just going to be this. Okay, in the first column, 2 plus 3 is going to be 5. So 5y squared. In this last column, 6 plus negative 4 is positive 2. And that's my final answer. Okay.
Please charge.
Now let's go to the next one. On the next one, I have x squared as my highest exponent that's with the variable. So now, once I've got these set up, now we're going to go through and start to sort. So 2x squared
Please charge.
plus 3x plus 9 Then I'm going to go through and go to the second parenthesis. Now remember, I see a spot where there's not a number, so I'm going to add a 1. Then I'm going to go through and sort those. So negative 1x squared minus 4x minus 6. And now I can start to go through and total. So in the first column, 2 and negative 1, when I added them together, would be 1. So 1x squared. Positive 3 and negative 4, it's negative 1x. And 9 plus negative 6 is positive 3. Now, I'll be honest, when you go to see these spots where the ones are, they're probably going to drop them. Because remember how we've talked about before, we assume those ones are there whether we write them or not. So if you went to look at something like at a standardized test or an exam or something like that, that's probably what you would see. Okay, let's try one more, and I think I'm going to post this. So on this one right here, here's one spot where I could put a 1. But if I look through all of them, the highest exponent I see anywhere is x squared. So I'm going to get my standard form set up. Now this is a problem, and we'll spend some more time in this next class, but you can really tell they're not in order. They're kind of mixed up. So we're going to have to use our columns to help us sort. So I have 5, negative 3x, positive 1x squared. And now I'm going to go through and sort these. So let's see, 2x plus 4 minus 3x squared. Now, anything that's positive, you can write a plus sign. If it helps you to put a plus sign there and there, just so you remember it's positive, you can do that. If you don't need to do that in order to add the problem, that's fine. So now we have to go through and start getting our coefficients, those numbers in front, together. So 1 plus negative 3 is negative 2. Bring down that x squared. Now if I put these together, negative 3 plus a positive 2 would be negative 1. So negative 1x. Positive 5 and positive 4 is positive 9. Now, just like we said before, I'd probably drop that 1 because I assume it's there whether they write it or not. So your answer is probably going to look like that. Okay, keep going over these and make sure that you're good to go. And then we will spend some time when we go through this together again next class to make sure you have a good idea of that. The other thing is, don't be worried if you're looking at something and you're not really sure if you should always make it go down to this. Okay, you got to make sure you look for where that 1 is and know you can drop that and you'll still get that right value. Okay? Okay, any questions? Email me, text me, or call me. Good luck.